Welcome to the Atlanta Gladiators Podcast, your go-to destination for everything Gladiators. Twice a month, live from the Business RadioX studios at the Gas South Convention Center, play-by-play broadcaster Liam Gotimer will interview a Gladiator about his journey to professional hockey. This week, we're proud to highlight number 71, Joey Cipollone, who since coming to the Gladiators has been a key force to the club's offensive attack. So sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 60 of the Atlanta Gladiators Podcast. Live from the Business RadioX studios, welcome to episode 60 of the Atlanta Gladiators Podcast. I'm your host, Liam Gotimer, the Director of Broadcasting and Communications for the club. With that, I'm pleased to be joined today by number 71, Joey Cipollone. Joey, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Liam.
The pleasure is all mine. So, Joey, let's go back to the beginning for you. Growing up in Purchase, New York, how did you first get involved with the game?
First got involved through some family, actually. My cousin, which is funny enough, he's also named Joey Cipollone.
Okay.
He started playing at a local rink, and I would go watch, and then fell in love with the game and started following his footsteps. And pretty crazy enough, too, that he also played Division I hockey and also played in the coast for a little bit. So always funny crossing paths. We have similar friends, and we're both named Joey, so that always created a little fun little laugh.
I was about to say, that's pretty funny. You're the second Joey Cipollone
Yeah,
in the ECHL. Gotta love that.
exactly.
So did you start out as a forward, Joey, or were you a defenseman, goaltender? What position?
Started out as defenseman, actually, and that didn't last very long, probably a year or two.
Okay.
And then when I first switched to a new team, we're short forwards, and that's how I got into playing forward.
Gotcha. And you just never looked back from there?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. So you grew up in New York. We talked about this briefly before the podcast started, but you were a Rangers fan. What was that like growing up and just rooting for the Rangers in Manhattan? So.
Being a Rangers fan was awesome. Had some really good teams growing up. Made a couple Stanley Cup Finals. Always were in a playoff race, and always had some blue collar 200-foot players, which is what I always loved watching about my New York Rangers. And so, yeah, it was always fun growing up, watching the Rangers games, going to games. I was fortunate enough to go to Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals when they played LA, and that was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. So being a kid growing up and having those guys to look up to was definitely awesome.
That was the one game that they had won in that Cup Final,
Yes,
right?
it was.
That was a fun one. Not a fun end to that Stanley Cup Final, but is what it is. Was there one player on that team or on those Rangers teams that you looked up to, as you were getting into your hockey career?
Always a huge fan of Ryan Callahan.
Okay.
I was always undersized a little bit growing up, and he was always a great 200-foot player, played with a lot of pride.
Yeah.
So just little things like that was always something that I really enjoyed watching about him, and he was a great Ranger, and the city embraced him really well.
It's funny, I'm thinking back to my childhood, and of course I'm not a hockey player, but I always loved the game, and I wanted to be a broadcaster, and my dad would always tell me, in life, be like Callie. Always work as hard as you can, and just have that leadership mentality. So it's very interesting that he was the player that you looked up to, and you do remind me of him in a lot of ways on the ice. So I love to hear that, and we'll talk about the Rangers as we get into your time with the Bridgeport Islanders, because that's definitely going to be an interesting connection. But before that, let's start talking about your time in the USHL with the Tri-City Storm. How did that go for you? How did you first get involved, and how did you think it helped your development?
Yeah, so first got involved, was committed to the University of Vermont, and the main recruiter there for me was Kyle Wallach, and he had a connection with the Tri-City Storm. So throughout my time at Loomis Chaffee, that was always the possibility of me to go out there and play before I started my collegiate career. And that came into fruition when I went out there for 1 year under Anthony Noreen. It was a great time. He's an awesome coach, great guy. And he just got the Miami, Ohio job recently. So
Sweet.
He's going to do a great job there. I know that. And that 1 year was huge for my development. Obviously, you're growing up and you're playing your youth hockey, and everyone's a big dog. But I learned a lot about myself that year, how to handle adversity, how to be willing to take on different roles and grow within my 200-foot game. And I think learning a lot of that stuff during my time in the USHL really helped me get a head start when I was a freshman in college, have a good college career and a good start when I was at Vermont. And a lot of that was attributed to the stuff I went through in the USHL.
And how do you think your development in the USHL has helped you now that you've begun your pro career, just in terms of the little things that you touched on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, each level presents new challenges, and you don't know what they are really until you get there, and everyone's journey is a little different. So you'll hear things a couple guys go through, and you could take things what they learned from. But I feel like once you get in it and see it for yourself, then that's when you really were able to embrace and learn those lessons.
So after your time with Vermont, you decide to transfer to Quinnipiac. What went behind that decision?
Just needed a new opportunity. Being close to home was also really nice. And then the big cherry on top was playing for a team that was competing for Frozen Fours and national championships every year. Being transferring when I did, I was fortunate enough to be given that opportunity by Rand and the staff, and knew that I would be able to come in there and help a team that just provide some depth, and not only that, just be a part of a great culture. Learned a lot about myself away from the rink there, and met a lot of my best friends at Quinnipiac. So I'm extremely grateful for all the time that I had there.
So describe to me that whole season when Quinnipiac finally culminates with a national championship victory.
It's special. There's no one way to really describe it. I'm fortunate enough to be part of that team, and also win that with my brother was, I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to top that. But there's so many different ways you could think about that team. And the big thing that always comes up for me is just how proud the community is, the culture we have there. The alumni base is tremendous. Those guys were always in our corner, and they're always guys that we always leaned on. So when I think back to that championship team, I really think about the culture, and then I also think about the sacrifice my family went through to not only get me in that position, but also my brother.
At what point in the year, Joey, did you have a feeling that we could go all the way?
Pretty early on. I'd probably say our second or third weekend, we went and played North Dakota, which is a pretty hostile environment. Yep. And our first game didn't really handle the moment too well, and we were still able to sneak out of there with a tie. And then Saturday, we had everything clicking, and we took it to them pretty good in a pretty hostile environment, one that was similar to playing in the Frozen Four. So probably at that moment, I had a really good feeling that this team could get over that hump. But also, too, during the year, you don't want to be thinking about that right away. And we were very good at staying in the moment. We're very process driven. So not only that year, but we had a lot of leaders that came back for a fifth year just for that moment of getting over the hump and winning a national championship, as we went through a little bit of adversity the 2 years prior and not getting that job done. So I know we were able to finally get it done, and it was awesome to see the university and the program and what it meant for Quinnipiac. It was really special.
You mentioned staying in the moment. Let's fast forward to the national championship game. You touched on how the club was down 2-1 after the second period, but down 2-0 at one point in the second period. What was the Cubs' mentality when you fell behind early on there, but to be able to come back and eventually force overtime? We'll get to the overtime winner, but just what was the thought process of the team just when going through that?
We're still confident. We relied heavily on our training, and we knew that we were always in games. We're a deep hockey club, and one of the things we prided ourselves on, like Buccigross said in overtime, was our fitness. And we always knew that we always pride ourselves on being a third period hockey club. We always knew that our training was outstanding, and that we were able to kind of get better as teams would fade off. And so even though we were down 2-1, we knew we didn't play our best hockey that first period, and then started to take a step after we were able to get that first goal. And that third period was pretty evident of our team identity, that we were able to just roll over them in waves, and we're able to get that tying goal. So yeah, we were definitely a confident group. No one wavered, and that's probably the most impressive thing, is that even though we're in a big moment like that, we're able to stay together, and our character was able to come through.
And then in overtime, Jacob Quillen scores the overtime game-winning goal to secure the national championship. Take me through the play and kind of your perception of it.
I mean, it's a routine face-off play just to create possession, get it in the zone, and we would run it a lot in practice. But Even when you do it 5-on-0, there's times where that line like wouldn't be able to run it as clean as that. And it's just something where it's just a matter of details. Like one guy makes a mistake and a great pass from Metza, but yeah, you're sitting on the bench. You're not thinking you're scoring off the jet. So you're just trying to get ready for your first shift. And then before you know it, you blink and we're national championship. So it's pretty crazy to think of it that way. Still get chills every time I think about it. So it's definitely a special goal.
And you touched on earlier winning the national championship with your brother. Just in that moment, what sense of family pride did you feel to not only call yourself a national champion, but to be able to call your brother one as well?
Yeah, there's even 2 years later, there's still no words for it. Justifies pretty much both our journeys. Both of us being national champions is something that I don't even think I could dream of growing up. Like it's something that I know my parents sure did, and we're very fortunate that they were able to live that out. It was definitely a truly blessing of a moment after the game when we saw them, like me and my brother were able to see my mom, my dad, and my sister all on the glass. We have a nice family pic, so that's something that I'll have with me forever, and that's something that no one can take away.
It's got to feel like a culmination of just hard work since day one paying off.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like every kid, there's a lot of sacrifices that are made growing up, and we're all very lucky to have parents that are willing to do that for us.
Now on to the goalie matchup in that national championship. Yaniv Peretz was the goaltender for Quinnipiac. Now he comes back into town with the Bloomington Bison, the club that the Gladiators will take on for the next 3 games. How cool is that?
I'm very excited to see him. He's a one-of-a-kind character, but he's an amazing person. His dedication to the game is unlike almost anyone I've been around. Yeah. And so I haven't seen him in a while since our alumni weekend, so I'm looking forward to seeing him. And I know last year I had a couple matchups against him, and I wasn't able to put one past him, so hopefully I'll be able to this weekend.
Right. Yeah. Must have been kind of sweet for sure. So moving on now to the opposing goaltender in that national championship. It was Justin Close, who is now one of the 2 starters for the Jacksonville Icemen. Your breakaway goal this year came at Gas South Arena against Justin Close. Walk me through the play, and how did you feel knowing that you were able to beat him in that moment?
I was able to just break away from the D, and Sly and Needles were able to make good plays on the wall. And I don't get many breakaways, but I had a breakaway, and I was like, wow, all right. Like what's going through my mind, and just kind of made a move that was just natural in the moment. Yeah. And got a fortunate bounce, but you need that sometimes, and I was definitely happy that it went in. It was a big goal for us in that game.
Yeah, it certainly was. So following college, you signed an American Hockey League contract with the Bridgeport Islanders. My first question is, growing up as a Rangers fan, knowing that contract is coming your way, was there any thought in your mind, man, I'm signing with the Islanders franchise here? Or was it, no, I'm just looking straight ahead, going for my journey?
It's always looking straight ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously you joke, and it's like you grew up a Rangers fan and now you're part of the Islanders organization. But any kid will tell you just to get an opportunity like that, it doesn't matter who it's with, you're going to take it. And I was very fortunate to Lamarillos that they were able to give me that opportunity last year. And I was able to go to camp and watch some of the best guys do it, and was able to take a lot there that's helped me out there in my pro career.
What would you say are the main things that you learned from being a part of that camp?
Just the way those guys take care of their bodies and how they treat people. The A-class organization, the staff there did a tremendous job of just teaching us little things that help over the course of a 70, 80 game season, which is a little different than your typical 30 or 40 in college. Right. And then all those pros, all the NHL guys treated all the young guys like me so well. And doesn't matter what status you are, how you treat people is incredibly important. And it was awesome to see those guys, even though they're at the highest level and making a lot of money, still treat us with the same respect.
It's not always about the on-ice play sometimes, right?
Yeah, no, there's a lot more that goes into it.
Yeah, 100%. So you sign or You skate in your first pro season with Worcester last year. What was that year like, and how would you assess your first pro season?
It was great. I learned a lot, and I was fortunate enough there to have a lot of really good friends that I still keep in touch with, and it was a great learning experience for me. Going through the ups and downs and playing an 80 games or 72 game season. Um, yeah, I would say it definitely helped me a lot more this year going through those adverse times where last year I would say trying to think of the right way to put it, but not that I didn't handle it well, but I just didn't think I did a good job of just continuing to play my game. And I think now this year I've been put in an opportunity where I'm able to really show what I can do and really show like how I can contribute to team winning.
So let's transition now from last season to this year. Nezzy gets in contact with you. How did that process all go down, and how do you think your play has elevated since coming to the Glads?
Yeah, so got in touch with Nezzy through my agent and right at the start of the year. So I came down when the Glads got the sweep against Indy.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate that Nezzy's and Ginner have been in my corner and supported me this year. They've given me a great opportunity, and the style of game that they want to bring here to the Glad suits exactly the way I play. So definitely doing a good job of just playing 200-foot hockey and just playing a reliable game that they want me to. And like we were just touching on, I'm really fortunate that they able to give me more of an opportunity to showcase myself, not only from a defensive standpoint, but contribute on the offensive side as well.
And in that opportunity, you join the Gladiators in Estero, Florida, when the club takes on the back-to-back defending Kelly Cup champion Florida Everblades. Joey, it took you 6 minutes into your first game as a Gladiators to score your first goal, rifling a wrist shot over the glove of Cam Johnson. Walk me through that moment.
Yeah, it's great to get the first one out of the way, no matter where you are. But yeah, Murray was able to make a good wall play, and I was able to step into a puck. A little bit of a fortunate bounce, but it definitely helped that I had a little strong forecheck going in neutral zone and was able to just rip a good shot on the breakaway. So yeah, it's always nice when you're able to get that first one out of the way and kind of settled in.
And there was a long time there where you were leading the Gladiators in goal scoring. How difficult is that to go from a team that obviously you've never played with, these guys that you have not been able to gain chemistry with, to be able to come in and just right away, I believe you had 8 goals in your first 13, 14 games. So just what led to that quick start, would you say?
The guys in the room, they all phenomenal guys and welcomed me with open arms and were great communicating with me what the expectations, but also my line mates were no matter who I had were all in constant communication, and that's really important in the game. The game's too fast not to be talking and basically just having chemistry with your line mates. So really fortunate for having a great group of guys and then able to translate that to on-ice performance.
And you touched on it before during your time in Worcester. You felt like you got away from your game just a little bit. For fans that may still be getting familiar with you, how would you describe your game to somebody that's never seen Joey Cipollone play hockey?
200-foot player. I just bring just constant effort. I'm very detail oriented. Yeah, I would say those three basically sum it up. High compete, detail oriented, 200-foot player. But I'm also a great teammate, and there's a lot of things that the average fan won't see that I think I excel in, and those are where the strengths of my game lie. But then I could also produce as well.
Talking about being a great teammate, one of the things, or the constants rather, throughout all of the conversations that I have with every single member of the roster is just how excellent the locker room is. This is your second locker room in your pro career, but again, you've been playing hockey for many years. How would you describe this group and how close they are night in and night out?
It's definitely an awesome group to be a part of, and for pro hockey, it's special. It's different when you're in a college environment. You're with each other every day. It's easier to form relationships and bonds as you're going to classes together, and everyone's on that schedule. And with pro hockey, obviously, everyone's kind of got a different routine and lifestyle away from the rink, but it's an extremely tight knit group. Always a lot of laughs, always a lot of chatter in the room, and whenever on the road, everyone's always going out to dinners and having a good time. So really lucky that I've been able to come here and be a part of a great organization with great people.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So let's talk about the line mates that you've had so far this season. For a long time, you were skating alongside the captain, Eric Neely, and the alternate captain, Cody Sylvester. What was it like playing alongside two veterans that have just had such illustrious pro careers?
Yeah, like you said, they've had extended and awesome pro careers, and that's something that I've been really lucky to be a part of. And those guys are not only great players, but they're awesome guys in the room, and they've been great to me. Been able to learn a lot from them, and just being able to watch them, and you're able to see why they've had the success they've had and their longevity. They're both absolute warriors out there, and makes my life a little easier when I'm playing with them for sure.
And it seems like no matter who you're playing with, you're having success, because you played with Cody and Niels, but you've also skated with some of the young guys like Dominic Marcinkiewicz, Connor Galloway, and second-year pro Michael Markazan as well. So for you, does it not matter who you're playing with? You're always going to play your game, or do you really take pride in kind of elevating whoever's on your wings?
A little bit of both, right? So yeah, obviously, no matter who you're with, you always want to play well and do your job, and then yeah, it's always great when you're able to elevate players with others, and it helps challenge yourself as well. So yeah, I've learned a lot of that through past experiences of how to handle adversity. Whether you're on the first line or the fourth line, how you're able to raise the level of play, not only of yourself, but your line mates, and how to contribute to team success. So in situations sometimes where you might be looking at yourself and it's like, why me? Like, instead of looking at it that way, I've been able to embrace it and try to find ways to not only continue to have personal success, but also have or bring success to other guys' games as well.
You touched on individual adversity, but how about team adversity? The club was riding a 3-game losing streak prior to the game against South Carolina. You guys fall behind on 2 different occasions, still come back to win that game in a shootout. And we know how skilled the Stingrays are. Just how much of a gut check victory do you think going into this 3-game weekend with the Bloomington Bison that was against South Carolina?
Yeah, that win was huge, especially now that we're going 6 games now out of conference. It was huge to get 2 points like that, and like you said, it's definitely a gut check game, especially after the way the past week or 2 has gone.
Yeah,
and we're able to stick with it, right? Like you said, we're down a goal on multiple occasions, and we just continue to grind and stick with it, and that's a recipe for us. No matter what's going on in the game, we got to do it the right way. We can't cheat it. We got to be on the right side of pucks and do all those little things right, because if we can continue to out-detail teams, then we'll start seeing the results we want here.
You touched on that the next 6 games are all out of division. 3 with the Bloomington Bison, then 3 in Worcester against your former team in the Railers. You excited to go back and face them again?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially only being 2.5 hours away from home. I'll have family there and friends. So trying to get that all sorted out this week, so then when I get there, it's just business as usual.
Dusting off your parka?
Maybe.
Maybe even had it ready to go with the way this winter's been here in Atlanta.
I know.
It's been pretty wild.
Yeah, so I've been putting it to a little bit of use, but finally it's getting back to being nice out. 60 today. So
yeah, there you go.
That's great.
The walk over here was absolutely wonderful. Not that it always isn't wonderful. It is. I guess South District is absolutely beautiful, but the weather was able to go along with it. Joey, I have a few more questions for you, but they're all fun fan questions.
Okay.
So these are not about hockey, really. The first one, your roommate's with Michael Markazan.
Yeah.
I want to know his flaws as a roommate.
No flaws.
No flaws.
I'm gonna say
Flawless.
no flaws. He's a great roommate.
Okay.
We're both very routine based, and ours are both different. But no, he's been an awesome guy, and he helped me a lot, especially when I made the transition here. That's something I'm very thankful for. And yeah, no bad things to say about Marcy, but he's definitely a heartbeat in the locker room, and guys love always talking with him, and he's always in the middle of something.
How's his driving? You ever driven with Marshy?
Yeah, I've heard that he's not a great driver. I'm on his side. I think he's all right. I'm also a New York driver, so
Oh, so
yeah, so I understand.
Okay.
And I think he drives like me, so I am a great driver.
Love it.
But yeah, I mean, being aggressive sometimes I think that's why people would say he's a bad driver. But
Okay.
there's times where you need to be aggressive on the road. So
Us New Yorkers, we just
exactly.
get it. Right, Dan? Dan gets
I'll,
it too, who helps produce
I'm on his side there.
our episodes, also a New Yorker. So, Joey, we did a social media segment earlier in the season that asked the whole team, which teammate would bring you soup if you were sick? And like 90% of the team said Sippy. So our fan is asking, what kind of soup would you bring to the boys if they were sick?
Oh, it's a good question. I don't know.
Chicken noodle, tomato.
Yeah, probably something basic because you don't really know what they want, and sometimes you're like, if you want to go with something special and they don't like it, so if you do like a chicken noodle soup, like that's pretty basic, and everyone pretty much likes that, so you can't go wrong.
Yeah, I can't go wrong with a chicken noodle. Cool. So, what is another sport that you'd like to master outside of hockey?
Golf, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
No hesitation.
Nope. It's something I wish I picked up when I was younger, and I would say a lot of hockey guys would agree with that. Started playing when I was in prep school just because we had a lot of guys playing, and I wanted to be part of the group. So they were able to sneak me on the team, and I was able to learn golf that way. And it's been a big part of the off seasons now. So my game's not great. It's average, but I always love going out there with the guys and having a great time. That's what's most important.
There you go. I love it. So which teammate do you most want to be stuck on a desert island with, and why? And I'm going to say no Michael Marchesant. You can't choose your roommate outside
No
of Marshy.
Marchesant.
Yeah.
I think when we did that, because that question was asked.
Did we ask that one?
During the year. And I think I said Topatis because he's obviously a smart guy, and definitely quick on his feet and clever, and someone that's reliable to be in that situation. But now we've got Fierzy here, Anthony Furiolo, and he was a West Point grad. So I feel like that's got to be the obvious choice.
Your hands might be forced there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, Joey, 2 more questions for you. First one, we're making a movie about your life. Who is acting as Joey Cipollone, and why?
Probably Mark Wahlberg, actually. Just same kind of style. I don't know. Pretty simple-minded, and I know his daily routine is insane, and mine's not to that capacity, but I think he would be able to do a good job with it. And then, I don't know, might always have a pretty basic hairstyle, and I think he's the same way, so I think it'd be a good fit.
Joey, Mark Wahlberg, Cipollone, everybody. So final question for you. You're stuck on a desert island, and you get 3 wishes. You cannot wish to get off of the island. What are your 3 wishes? You got to stay.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, I'm going to be thinking about this the whole car ride back home.
There is a right answer, if you believe it or not, because this is actually a question that we like to ask during interviews. Would you get hired by the Gladiators? Let's find out.
So repeat it again.
All right. So you're stranded on a deserted island, and you get 3 wishes, but you cannot wish to get off of the island. What are you wishing for? You can wish for whatever you want.
Well, definitely like an unlimited, probably food supply, shelter supply. Trying to think.
But like, give me something tangible. Like,
yeah.
I can give you mine if you want.
Yeah, let's hear
all
it.
inclusive resort. It's all inclusive.
I guess, yeah, if you can't leave, yeah.
Yeah, you can't leave.
I'm thinking more of like stuff where it's just like, I don't know, just like your basic everyday essentials, like if you're stranded there.
So fun fact, the answers that we're looking for when we ask.
Because I'm probably not going to get them right now.
Yeah, looking for companion and basic needs are met. Making sure.
Okay, basic needs. I think I was on that wavelength.
Yeah, so you were on that wavelength. You were right there. So Joey, you're hired. Well, that'll do it for episode 60 of the Atlanta Gladiators podcast. Joey, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Liam. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening and watching this episode of the Atlanta Gladiators podcast. As a reminder, you can find the Atlanta Gladiators podcast on YouTube. We'd also like to extend our heartfelt appreciation to our wonderful partners,
at Business RadioX for hosting us. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and as always, go Glads.